What's up, guys? This is Jakob. I'm Content AI Manager and helping small and medium enterprises around the world with the content strategy. Welcome to the new episode of the Content AI Show, where I interview guests around the world within the AI niche. And I'm super excited to speak today with GumGum's Director of Product. His name is Schechter. He's based in LA. And I'm very sure that you have more sun than I have today in Hamburg, but really appreciate your time that you're here today. Welcome to the show, Lane.
Awesome, thank you, Jakob. And yes, it actually is a little bit sunny here today, so we'll take that. And thanks for having me on today. As you mentioned, I'm Lane Schechter. I'm the Director of Product at GumGum, overseeing our contextual intelligence AI platform. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit.
Yes.
And earlier, I've kind of always been very drawn to digital media, specifically video formats and online web formats for editorial content, and started out in content operations and publishing content myself, and kind of eventually found my way into leveraging AI tools to help me do that more efficiently, and help the companies that I've been a part of do that more efficiently, and ultimately to the part where I'm at now, building those tools and those solutions to bring them at scale right now to the advertising and publishing, digital advertising and digital publishing ecosystem.
This is already super curious. And I see also similarities with my own story. I started as a digital editor, became a content manager, and then started my own business and realized these AI tools, they help me to leverage my own time. And this is the main advantage. And I hear this also from your experience, but that's already maybe way too forward. So maybe one step back.
Sure.
So can you introduce yourself? So you mentioned already video, but how did everything start for you? So can you introduce yourself first of all in a nutshell?
Yeah. Absolutely. Apologies for jumping ahead. I got excited
Everything
there.
fine. Don't have to apologize. Everything.
Awesome. Yes. So early in my career, I started out actually doing copywriting and operational publishing of video assets to, at the time I was working for Red Bull Media House here in North America, but has global operations as well. And we were in the process of building out a Red Bull TV channel on connected devices. Had already established sort of a good YouTube channel and following for the produced, owned and operated content that Red Bull Media House was producing. And we were bringing that into more platforms, building our own platform, but also finding different distribution channels. And what that required was actually writing copy for all of the video assets that we were producing and publishing, and on the back end, doing a lot of metadata tagging, a lot of editorial manual tagging of these assets to categorize the content into different buckets of aboutness. I'm going to use the term aboutness here just to describe kind of what the that video or this page in the future down the road in this conversation is about. I'll probably say aboutness as a general term. And in doing this, it was a very manual process, and there wasn't a lot of automation. There was actually no automation at the time. And then we were able to introduce some automation, but it was not AI or ML based at the time. It was just some basic rules or bulk editing capabilities to then publish the content. And ultimately, this content would be packaged up, and it was used for browsing purposes. You could look and package different content pieces into different editorial packages that had similar tags from that metadata. This is going to sort of play a theme later on throughout my career, because I then kind of jumped over, spent 4 years or so in this content operations space and working with content management systems to try to come up with ways to use bulk editing to make these tasks more efficient. And then got an opportunity to do a very similar project over at GumGum initially, where we build out and manage digital advertising campaigns. So now I was on the publishing side, where I was actually responsible for tagging the content. And then I shifted over more to the advertising side of the business, where I was actively and have been actively trying to place advertising next to content that is accurately tagged, if that makes sense. I'll pause there for a second because I know that that's a
Yeah,
bit of information.
yeah. So just to make sure that I understand it, when was this period of Red Bull Media? So which
Red Bull
years?
Media was from 2014 to 2018.
Okay, okay.
So what's that? Eight
Yeah,
years ago, I guess.
yeah. Okay, and why is tagging that important? So for all the people who are listening, so why is it important to tag videos? Yeah,
Yeah,
why?
great question. And
Yeah.
it's important across really the entirety of the open web. So the web is so much unstructured data. And in our minds, and to be able to actually uh, find environments that we want to align our messaging with, it's easier when there's a way to have indexed information. The way that we use Google primarily now for search purposes, you can have a central repository, and what it does is it helps direct you to the destinations that you're ultimately looking for. The same is true with tagging of content. These are signals that are then made available so that other services, whether they're internal tools or external tools, can access its information retrieval, access that information in a consistent manner. So, what you're really ultimately trying to create there is a unified sort of taxonomy of information that then you can share to other platforms within your own internal organization or to platforms external of your organization with consistency and scale.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I'm just thinking, I'm a solopreneur or an entrepreneur who's starting out, and tagging is something that I do when I upload my YouTube video,
Yeah,
basically.
very similar.
But what you built on Red Bull wasn't like, it's not like, yes, they have the YouTube channel, but they have their own content management system. Is this
Correct.
right? And
Yes.
they tag it also within uh, their own system, so to say,
Yes.
right?
And then this information is ultimately being used the way that it is on YouTube, for example, when you're tagging your content. The tags that you're putting in are actually being used to direct and make ad serving decisioning. So when you actually get into
Ah,
which ads and how you can monetize that content, those tags are being leveraged,
okay,
which is
yeah,
very similar to what the space that we're playing in now, and that I'm now transitioned in over at GumGum, is making sure that there's uniform taxonomy for the tagging of digital content so that we can pass it along to advertisers buying that ad space. So the same is true within YouTube. When you're tagging your content, it helps your content show up in certain search queries. For
yeah,
example, if someone's looking for specific content, AI type video content, they can type that in it, and there's a high likelihood that depending on the tags that you've implemented, your programming will be returned as a result.
yeah.
At the
But
same time, oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry for interrupting.
No,
But
no, no, go ahead.
when you so when what is then more important, the text that I'm including or the headline on YouTube? So when you compare it,
That's a great question, and I'm not an expert on
okay,
YouTube
yes,
trafficking,
fair
admittedly.
enough.
But I will tell you that from how we look at text today to provide classifications, it's a combination of headlines, titles, what the actual text within the body of the paragraph is,
Okay,
to ultimately bubble it up to um, higher level categorization in a standard taxonomy. So not sure on the YouTube platform for SEO
yeah,
purposes if headlines or tags are more important. But the way that we consider them is we consider both. If the publisher has actually gone in, like yourself, the content creator, the content owner, you seemingly know your content more intimately than anybody else or any even machine or AI is going to be able to classify it. That being said, there's a lot of transparency issues in the digital advertising, um, sort of just entire supply chain, where if you can have third party validation for some of these things, it helps gain additional trust. It doesn't mean that there's nefarious or bad actors in there, but it helps give additional external validation to, you said it was about this. Let's see if somebody else also agrees that it's about this.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So maybe one question that I always ask is, so was there one turning point for you in your career where you said, okay, I have to figure out this whole AI stuff? So was there a book, was there a moment where you made this decision? So for me, for example, it was a pitch by somebody else, and it was a
Yep.
bad pitch, and I said to myself, I am going to do this better, and
Yep.
I made my research. Do you have something like this?
Kind of, yes.
Right.
It was not intentional at the time. I think it was more organic. It was during the process of um, doing all of the content tagging for when I was at Red Bull Media House. It was very repetitive in nature, and it felt like it was more prone to human error. The large volume of content that was going
Yes.
through it, it was very repetitive, and it felt like there needs to be a better way to do this. There's a more efficient way to do this. And then it was early forms, not really full AI yet, but was using some macros at the time to automate some of the tagging, and thought, well, if we could go beyond just automate the tagging, but also understanding and categorizing this content, that could be a really great opportunity. And a few years later, that opportunity kind of came to fruition at GumGum. So it was a different use case, but very similar problem space that we were solving.
I think you mentioned something very important, because oftentimes people say, or they use automation and AI in the same
Interchangeably.
sentence.
Yep.
Yes. So, but
Yeah.
how would
Not
you? Yeah.
Yeah, great point, great call out there. Appreciate that. So, it started with automation of repeated task. That was something that I would fall into the automation bucket. That's what we were making automated. That didn't leverage any artificial intelligence or machine learning. That's more algorithmic based and not leveraging training data for improving the system. Versus when we started to, over at GumGum, build actual models to make predictions as an output,
Yeah.
that's when we really moved into the artificial intelligence space.
Yeah.
That was not just the automation. The automation piece was the actual applying the tag, but the AI piece was figuring out what the tag should be.
Yeah. That's so predicting the tag to some
Yeah.
degree. Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. That's cool. But I'm just curious. So you were somebody who was sitting in front of the
Yep.
desktop and doing these tags, and then you have this idea of automation and then AI. But I mean, is coding also involved in your work? No.
No, it's not me specifically. No, I started in operations, so was very hands-on keyboard, and then found ways to work with engineering teams to help
Okay.
build automation. That was the first step, was helping build in automation to a lot of these processes. And then it was later in my career, once I moved over to GumGum, where I got to work with data science teams as well, to start thinking about how these models are developed and how we can continue to improve them. Couple that with the engineering side that's focused on automation and access points and availability. So, actually building the service layer for these tools so customers can interact with them. Combining that with the machine learning models, that was more of a past 3 years of my career. That's where that's really come to fruition. Um, but I get to work with much more talented people than myself that are much more capable of actually bringing these things to life.
But is that not very challenging? I mean, these guys are very left brain people who are very focused on creating genius products,
Yep.
and you're more focused on, yeah, bringing it to the customer, more
Yep.
service oriented. So
Yep.
that's, I think,
It's
challenging it. Yeah.
Yeah, I find it incredibly rewarding. to get to sit in between sort of the people actually executing and the people that are making and that are using these products, and operating as a translator of sorts, of taking in a business use case or an end user's use case. So for my particular story at the time, if you were to tie it back to that, it was really one of, I'm doing a repeated task a lot of times, and it feels like there's probably room for error here. So someone that would want to use that is someone that's looking for automating their tagging purposes and making sure that there's consistency, because maybe I'm one person that's doing it and there's 10 more people on my team doing it as well, but they sit in different global offices and we all have different taxonomies that we're representing, and now you have a mismatch of content. So that's who I was trying to solve it for. And then it's turning around and working with the actual engineers or the data scientists directly to come up with ways that we might be able to do that. And I've found that the most effective way of doing this is making sure that we understand what we're solving for and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
What's the actual problem? Who's going to use it? If we understand those two things, and if I can do an effective job of translating that back to the data science team and to the engineering team, for them to get a sense of what are they building and for who and why, what is the intended output, I've found that to be a very effective way of building products that solve customers' needs, and leveraging the teams that have certain expertise, like building machine learning models or fully fledged API systems that can scale to internet scale.
Yeah. So basically, so you already asked these questions. So what pain point are you solving with GumGum?
Yeah, great question. So all of my earlier career has kind of gotten to come to fruition here at GumGum, because GumGum is a digital advertising, contextual first digital advertising company that serves advertisers and works and represents publishers for selling their online inventory for advertising placement purposes. And we do that from a contextual first perspective, meaning we are very privacy forward. We do not use any personal user data, any device related data. So we don't actually know who you are to be able to serve an effective ad placement for you. We believe that we will reach you at the right time in the right mindset if we understand the environment that you're looking at. So through content understanding and contextual intelligence is what we'll call it. So what we're solving for right now is giving information to advertisers and to publishers for what content is about and the aboutness of it. Is it safe? Are there potential threats that are being, or topics that are debated topics, or things that you might not want your brand messaging around present in this environment? Is this, is this a video or a page article about football, American football, or is this about soccer football? Which are we talking about, and is that an environment that I want to align myself with? So we use machine learning models to look at imagery, text, audio, and video files to make predictions on what this is about and provide that information to advertisers and to publishers, such that they can then, advertisers can target it, publishers can use it to automate the tagging of all their content. So what I was doing manually when I was working at Red Bull Media House, now a company like Red Bull Media House could use the products that we're building at GumGum to automatically classify all of their content, so that there's a universal taxonomy for it, uniform taxonomy with consistency, and then they can repackage that and actually sell that information to advertisers as well. That it's been verified by us, and advertisers and publishers both now are operating off of the same taxonomy.
So you mentioned the privacy. So how is this possible without collecting cookies? So
Yeah, great question.
The cookieless ecosystem that you mentioned.
Yes. Yes, it is the perfect solution for a cookieless environment, and it really came from a couple of perfect storm factors. You had market forces and you had technology maturing that really created this opportunity for us right now. And you saw consumer privacy and safety concerns starting really 2017 and onwards. You started to hear more about these where content, advertising content was running on YouTube content that was unsavory or not places that brands actually want their messaging to go and be aligned with. You had regulations in Europe, GDPR, go into effect in 2018. California, you had CCPA in 2020. And you also started to see the tech privacy updates taking place. You saw Firefox drop the default mechanism for supporting cookies. You had Apple IDFA last year where they turned off data tracking across applications by default. So you see big tech, and Google has announced that they will be deprecating the cookie at some point. It's been delayed a couple of times now, but I think the latest is 2024. So you see this big trend towards not being able to collect user data because, quite frankly, I don't personally want to be tracked around the internet, and most consumers, I think, don't realize how much information is actually out there. And on the other hand, you have the maturation of technology. You have machine learning continuing to evolve as an application of artificial intelligence and mature, where it is a wonderful tool to use for structuring unstructured data. And the web is a lot of unstructured data. So what we're basically doing is getting access to page URLs, an actual page or a video file, and we are making a classification just based on that file or that asset that we are receiving. No need to know who you are, where you are potentially, what time of day it is that you're interacting with this data. That to us in our positioning is not really relevant because what we're trying to do is best understand what is that thing that you're looking at? What is that video that you're watching, or what is that article that you're reading about? And if we have that piece of information, we believe that we'll be able to reach you at the right time because you, as the end user, have made your intent clear. You went to that article because you wanted to read about that topic. You played that video because you're curious about what you're watching in that video. And in order to do that, I don't need to know who you are. I need to be very good at predicting what is that thing that you're consuming right now.
Yeah, but you can interrupt me when I'm wrong. So the main thing of cookies, is it not like collecting data or collecting my where I'm going? Yeah.
Yeah, no, spot on. It's collecting cookies come in all shapes and sizes. They can be functional cookies where you actually need them to be able to load a website. They can be other, typically tracking for marketing and digital advertising purposes. They are looking at what are the sites. They're following you essentially. They're building a cookie trail, where the term comes from, of where have you been? What are the different sites that you are visiting? So that I can start to understand you as your patterns, your habits. This approach to contextual classification, I'm not building a profile for Jakob. I'm not tracking where you went. I'm basically providing information for when you're on the site about travel research because you're interested in taking a trip, that I've very accurately classified that content as about travel so that when advertisers say, I want to reach my audience that's interested in travel, this is a good placement for them.
Okay.
If that does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yes. Yes.
So it requires no access to user data whatsoever, which is what we're really excited about. And it allows us to truly believe that we're reaching you, regardless of who you are, at the right time, in the right place, because you have decided to be there.
Yes. So, but this doesn't mean that your ads are, for example, running on Facebook, or where?
No, yeah, great question. Great question. So right now we're serving outside of we're really serving the open web environment.
Okay.
So we're not working within the walled gardens at present. So no Facebook, no YouTube, no Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, Snapchat, and all whatever else they got these days. But it's everything across the open web. But we also work in the video space. So we do work across connected TV as well as online video. So we work with publishers directly, and we work with clearinghouses that get access to publisher content, and we classify that content. We actually look within the video and sample frames and look at the audio and transcribe that. So take the audio and turn it into text, and then run that text through our machine learning models to tell you what these episodes are about, or what this video clip is about, or what this movie is about, in a way that makes it available to transact and place advertisements against.
Really, yeah, it's fascinating, really cool. So I mean, when you, because I have this term from Joe Polizzi, who's the founder of the former Content Marketing Institute. You should not build your house on rented land. So basically, what this means is don't produce only on Facebook, or don't run your ads on Facebook. Just try to find other ways, and that's exactly what you're doing. And yeah, I like the strategy. Yes,
Yeah, there's a big the open web is pretty big. It's a large space to play in. So while Facebook and Google do and Amazon have a large share of the digital advertising dollars, they do. That's social is definitely an effective way. There's different tactics that can be deployed, and it's proven to be very effective, I think. We operate in a space outside of that, where we are responsible for understanding and determining, and we have built machine learning models that can identify what are the relevant parts of this page. If you think of web pages, any experience you could just go into and go across multiple different web pages here. You could go visit, you could be trying to purchase something and you're on a product page, and that has certain information about that product. You could be reading a review about a film or a TV show that you're watching. You could be reading a news article.
Mhm.
All of those have very different information that could be available. So we need to understand what is the relevant information to this particular document, and then make a prediction on what that information is. Whereas in some of the walled garden spaces, it's somewhat more well defined. This is the text from this post. This is the image from this post. We need to build models, machine learning models, to determine that.
Yeah. Really cool. So one thing that you mentioned several times already is this taxonomy
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
So is this I mean, I'm defining tags for my niche, or what?
Yeah.
How would you define it?
Yes. In a nutshell, that is what's happening. There's an industry standard taxonomy that's been adopted. It's produced by and owned by the IAB Tech Lab, Interactive Advertising Bureau's technology lab. And there's working groups of different individuals across the industry, working with linguists as well, and taxonomists, to come up with generalized categories of that term aboutness that we could bucket content into. So the latest version of that is version 3, and there's some 700 plus categories that content can be bucketed into or tagged as, labeled as. And the way we make sense of that in at GumGum is literally building machine learning models, deep learning natural language processing models that are trained on thousands upon thousands upon thousands of examples of this data that humans review and label. And then we use that labeled data to train a machine learning algorithm to make those predictions on content that it hasn't seen. And it's really looking for those similarities to the ones that a human labeled. How likely is it that this content fits into this category as well? Is more or less what that task looks like. And that's our supervised machine learning that we have developed in-house here at GumGum, and that we use for defining contextual, or for identifying contextual aboutness, and for brand safety purposes as well.
So how big is your team? I mean, this sounds like a I mean, you mentioned data scientists, you
Yes.
mentioned coding experts.
Yes.
So
Yes. Great question. So the team at GumGum now is GumGum was founded in 2008. It's headquartered here in Los Angeles and Santa Monica, California. And it is globally, we're available in 19 countries. We're represented in 19 countries globally right now with 500 employees. The GumGum Verity team, so the product that I'm specifically talking about, it's one of many products that GumGum offers, but the contextual intelligence engine, Verity is the name of it, is our team specifically is 10 data scientists full-time on staff here, another, I believe, 12 machine learning engineers as well. And then we have a couple more product team members, as well as an operations and sales side of the team. I think it rounds out to about 35 of us total that are dedicated to this product. But it excites me to say that we started with a group of, I believe it was 7 data scientists and 3 engineers. And now we've grown that quite substantially, which is very exciting.
that's cool. That's really cool. I mean, that's, I think, the future. So
Yeah. And I think what this does is it's going to continue to allow, our hope is, brands and marketers and publishers alike to be able to provide more rich information about how and where they should put their messaging. We believe that there's an opportunity to make a more impactful relationship with end consumers through advertising if you're reaching them in the right mindset with the right creative. And when I say creative, I actually mean what the ad unit itself looks like. What is the advertisement produced as, which is another area of future interest for us as well. And measurement. What is drawing attention? If we can optimize which environments, contextual environments, are driving the most attention, and what does the creative execution look like coupled with those, we believe we can get to a place where you have dynamic campaign optimization, dynamic creative optimization, all leveraging AI tools that can help you make sure that you're getting the most return on your ad spend as a brand or as an advertiser.
yeah. When you're speaking about GumGum, I also interview people around Web3, and so the one idea that I'm really fascinated about is that you watch ad, or you first of all you ask, do you want to see this ad? So there's an ad, Jakob, this could be interesting for you because it is about AI and content AI tools. Do you want to see it? So I am proactively asked, and then I say yes. I'm watching the ad. I'm interested, and I'm rewarded with tokens, social tokens. Well, so there's this idea which is in my head, and there are already examples of how this is possible. Is there something like this in mind when you are really focused on the end consumer? This would be, in my opinion, the next step, that you reward the people who are watching the ads.
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't really spent much time thinking about that particular execution, admittedly. What I have seen is, and for a slightly different application, was using that sort of reward system for data labeling practices. So if instead of just, will you watch this ad, it's, will you tell me what this ad or what this piece of content is about? and then being rewarded with some sort of token for the amount that you contribute to this labeled data set. I've seen projects like that. That's not the way that we do it currently, but that's a really interesting angle that you've got there. I would need to think a little bit more on that, but that sounds very interesting.
And the big vision. So what's coming for the 2, 3, 4, 5 next years?
Yeah, so we really want to bring what we're calling the mindset matrix to fruition and to market. And that's this combination of contextual signals and understanding, attention measurement, and creative execution. And if we can automate this entire process where you as a brand or you as a marketer basically input what your objectives are. I'm trying to reach this type of audience, and I want to make sure I'm going to measure success based on this key performance indicator, this key performance indicator, and this key performance indicator. We want to be able to take that input, generate a plan for you, a strategy, and then be able to optimize on that based on what's performing. So really build this entire ecosystem of being able to create and optimize targeting ads only based on contextual environments, the attention that they're driving, and what the creative actually looks like. For me, specifically on the Verity front, it's continuing to unlock new insights, leveraging using AI to look at web pages, to look at video content, and tell you, the advertiser or the publisher, something else about this piece of content that you may not have already known, or that helps you tag it in a more meaningful way so you can drive performance. An example, just one that's fun for me that I'd love to share there is really in that development of one of the things I mentioned, content type classification, being able to tell you this is a product page versus this is an article, or this is a web clip versus an episode of television or a film. And then because each of those has different pieces of information that are so important and so rich to that environment, that it can help you understand it a little bit more. Search ads might be more effective on search pages. It seems obvious, but in reality, I think we're overlooking some of those opportunities for incremental improvement.
Yeah, love it. I had another question that I forgot it. Sorry.
Sure, no problem.
There was something, but it's gone. No.
Okay, well, if it comes back, I apologize. I know I can be long-winded.
I hope so. It was something. I was super curious about it. Was it about the vision? I can't remember it. Okay.
I mean, I really hope that we can continue to build a consumer privacy first digital ad ecosystem. And I think that we can, and I think that we're on our way.
No, I got the question again. So that's the typical Robocop question. So there's always, I have this all the time. There's this fear of replacement. That's I don't know. It's human nature. I don't know. So maybe you also get this. So do we need a marketing manager or CMOs in the future, or will it be completely automated? That's basically the question. Yeah, because people.
I don't think things are going to be completely automated. I think that there's a misconception in terms of we have made incredible strides in AI and in machine learning. We still have a long way to go, and it in large parts, especially with supervised machine learning, it requires human input. And I think that there is something to say about being able to. We're teaching machines to think like humans, so there's going to be a humanistic aspect to it. If there's different tasks outside of the marketing role that don't require necessarily thinking like a human, then I think those are probably the best areas for replacement in the nearer term. So some unsupervised tasks ones that maybe don't require cutting through as much subjectivity. So where there's you and I might look at something and have a different opinion on it. That needs to also be considered. And when that is at task, I don't see it being fully replaced anytime soon. But
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I see it the same way. I oftentimes, because I explain to people how my work flow changed through AI. I mean, it gives me more freedom. I can do tasks easier and faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or think of one that's not an AI example, but an automation example. I'm not a big fan of content distribution, so uploading all the things,
Yeah.
uploading the pictures, the videos, and then scheduling it. I don't really, because it's a repetitive task
Yeah.
and I make mistakes. So what I do, I use a tool and I automate and say, okay, repost this post in 30 days.
Yeah.
And I have to do this once a month instead of once a week, and this makes me happy.
Yeah.
That's one simple example how it gives me more freedom. And
It's a great point. I think that used in combination with it opens up your ability to be more creative and
yeah,
spend time on other things and creating new solutions
yeah,
that
yeah,
gives you that mind space back and that time back. So I find it incredibly additive, um, and I'm optimistic for it.
yeah. So when I log in on GumGum, is it like I run also Facebook ads and things like that? Is it like that I choose my targeting and
Yeah,
which?
great question. Right now, the majority of the GumGum media buy is a managed service. So you work with our customer service representatives and ad operations and account management teams to that will actually run the campaigns for you.
Okay.
They'll manage all the targeting. Other options do exist for interacting with Verity data. For example, we're available in what are known as demand side platforms, DSPs, where advertisers are actually setting up a lot of their campaign buying. So it's very similar to um, going in and setting up a campaign within Facebook or within Google Ad Manager. Um, Very similar process there. And we are essentially one of the options for when you're talking about what type of targeting you want to do. GumGum Verity is an option there. And it'll use our data to decide whether this is a match for your ad or for your campaign or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool.
And we have plans to continue to uh, roll out more user interface tools that advertisers can use to kind of make it more tangible. This is an API service that's making machine learning predictions that are integrated with people's backend software. So as a buyer, that may not really translate into much for me. I'm clicking a button and I'm assuming that it's going to hit the target that I want. We want to show more insights and data around what does the contextual landscape look like right now as it relates to your brand, as it relates to certain topics, and show you real life examples of pages of video content that your campaign would run against, because this is how we've classified it to make it feel a little bit more tangible
Hmm.
and to add that layer of transparency and comfort with the data that's happening kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need video content. That's obvious.
Yeah,
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 that's awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. I mean, I could continue this for another hour, but our time is limited. So if people want more information about you, where or GumGum and GumGum, where should they go?
Yeah. Please check out our website, gumgum.com. There's some literature out there in the space too. If you look up GumGum Verity and description of methodology, it's one of my favorite technical documents. It's an overview of what the system is, what the software does, how it works, who we serve. Um, and I think just reaching out to Verity at gumgum.com If you have any questions about it and want to learn more, we'd be happy to chat about it.
Awesome. Really. Yes. So to some degree, so a lot of information, and I mean, yeah, I have to check the website again. And is there a free trial, or that's not, that
Yeah, we
doesn't
do.
make sense. Yeah.
Uh, we do trials
Okay.
where we will work with publishers or advertisers to show them samples of the data that we will process it through the system and return the results for them to review, and are always happy to do those trials as well as bake-offs. We believe that it's great to put our service out there and get a sense of how we're performing in market,
Yeah.
and how we stack up to other players in the space. So always
Awesome.
happy to do that.
Awesome. That's really cool. So basically, more clients within news agencies or publishing houses, traditional.
Yep, both sides. They're a large part of the business that we serve is direct to publishers. So we working with large publishers that have video content as well as editorial content, or own publishing networks. So we work with them to help scale, automate their tagging of their content. They also then are able to sell their inventory with our data attached to it.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then going direct to advertisers, making it available for them to activate targeting, whether it's through the GumGum media business, managed business, or it's through one of those other self-service options like demand side platforms that they're able to also buy through that we're integrated in.
That's awesome, Lane. Really, I have to check it again and make sure that I have to check the document that you mentioned.
Yes, no, it's a good read.
That's cool. Really appreciate your time, and thank you for being on my show. It was really delightful, and looking forward maybe to another session.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
Likewise, I really appreciate your time and having me on the show. It was great chatting with you.
thanks for watching to all you, and yeah, see you on the next episode. Thank you. Bye bye.